What is going on, guys? Welcome to a brand new video. Today we're going to be talking about Dawnbreaker, and this is going to be your go-to beginner's guide if you guys want to learn everything about Dawnbreaker and how to play her better. We're going to be talking about her facet, builds, matchups, and pretty much everything you need to know in order to become a better Dawnbreaker player. Hopefully you guys do enjoy the video. If you guys do, consider subscribing and joining the Dota Chronicles community. We continue to grow every single day, and everything is thanks to you guys. The more you guys subscribe, the more I can keep pumping out content for you guys. First of all, let's start with the facets. So facet number one is going to be solar charged, which basically means when Dawnbreaker hits a luminosity strike, she decreases all her ability cooldowns by 1 second. This is the most popular facet. It's pretty much your go-to facet, whether you're core or support. Now if you want a better support facet, then you go with facet number two, which is your gleaming hammer, which heals and damages allies. So basically the fire trail that is left behind is going to be healing your allies if need be. If they're standing on it, they're going to be getting that heal, but it's not a very popular facet. It's just because it doesn't last too long, so it's not really worth it. You'd rather have a faster cooldown with your luminosity strikes. That's going to make you more efficient on the map. It's going to help you farm faster. It's going to help you fight more often. It's going to help you do a lot more things on the map. So typically you want to go with solar charge. It is the much better facet. Your innate ability is break of dawn. So basically when the sun comes out, the whole map is revealed for 5 seconds. This is very, very important because a lot of the plays you want to be making are based around this, and this could also reveal potential smoke plays. So if your enemy is not paying attention and the sun is about to come out and they're not showing, it means they're smoked. So it's a very nice way to tell if the enemy team is smoked, if they're just not paying attention. Obviously most good teams, they're not going to be doing this while the sun is out because they're going to be revealed, so they want to do this during the nighttime. Let's talk about the items, guys. This is very important. Dawnbreaker can build a lot of different items. So your starting items, typically you want to get some regen, you want to get 2 gauntlets of strength, you want to get yourself branch and a quelling blade, or you can switch it out for a wand and get 2 gauntlets of strength. It's very important for you guys to get this because this, you're going to be upgrading this eventually to a soul ring or eventually into a wand. These are very important as mana regen on Dawnbreaker is super important. The hero has such fast cooldowns that you're constantly going to be needing mana, especially on very active lanes, and even just to farm you're going to need a lot of this mana. So having a wand, having a soul ring is a must on this hero if you want to play her properly. Your next items, you're going to be going for phase boots. It is pretty much the best way to play if you are playing support Dawnbreaker, which again is not a very popular position for the hero. Dawnbreaker is typically best played as a core, whether you're offlane or you're playing mid, which is my favorite position for the Dawnbreaker, but most players will be using Dawnbreaker as an offlaner. You could also play carry Dawnbreaker, which a lot of pro players have been playing recently. I just don't think it's that great for most players. I think you need to be playing with a proper team rather than solo queue. You're not going to be having a lot of fun and you know what you're doing, and then you're going to be getting a lot of value as a carry, but typically it's just not that great. Play her as a mid, play her as an offlane. It's just going to be better. And support, she's more or less okay. I just think she's very greedy and doesn't provide a whole lot when it comes to that. You need a proper stun when you want supports or something else that just Dawnbreaker doesn't offer. Your level 6 is very strong as a support, but it takes too long to come online. But continuing with the items, you guys are going to get yourself your phase boots, which is the best one. Then you're going to go either for a blade mail, Sanyasha, or an orchid, or an echo saber. So there's very few different options to go for. Orchid you get when you want to be more active around the map. You want to go chase people, you want to go fight. This is an item that's going to help you be more aggressive on the map. So if you're playing mid Dawnbreaker and you're facing up against a storm spirit, a puck, maybe a Zeus, any of these heroes or any of the spirits that can easily get away from you, get yourself an orchid. You're going to be getting kills. Same with Alina. It's going to help the matchup become much better because you're going to be able to close the gap and get kills. That is very important. But if you want to just get people off of you, then you want to get yourself a blade mill. So if you're facing up against matchups like Huskar, Viper, these very, very toxic matchups that have a lot of AoE damage, maybe a Pudge, maybe a Leshrac, these types of heroes obviously don't want to go up against a blade mill, so it's a very good item. And then items like San and Yasha are obviously good. If there's a lot of stuns on the enemy team, you want to be able to reduce that time that you're being stun locked because that's going to give you a lot more turnaround potential, and that's very important. Dawnbreaker can easily turn around and swing the fight in her favor, but if you are getting chain stun into oblivion, you're not going to be able to do a whole lot around the fight. So SNY, very, very solid item. And then if you want to just go toe to toe and be able to be tankier and be able to man fight better, then that's when you go with your echo saber, which eventually you will get a harpoon. That's going to give you some lockdown. It's going to give you the ability to pull them back in. So it's a very, very important item to have in general. I think every game you should be building a harpoon at some point. I think it's a really, really solid item to have, and it pairs really, really well with items like AC or Desolator. Desolator, another very important item for you guys to get if you want to start doing some more damage as a core. Desolator, a very good option. And then you could also start deviating and getting other builds. If your team doesn't need you to get damage, you can always build auras. You can get a Lotus, you can get an Assault Cross, you can get a Vlad's, you can get a different bunch of items that your team might need. You can get a pipe if need be. Dawnbreaker is such a versatile hero that it's amazing to have on your team, because if your team needs you to do something, Dawnbreaker can do it. If your team needs you to build something, Dawnbreaker can build it without it being super awkward. That is very important to have in a very solid offlaner. Same thing goes from the mid lane. A lot of times my team hasn't needed my damage from the mid lane, but they needed control, so I've gone for an Abyssal Blade, or I've gone for an Orchid, or I've gone for a Harpoon. Sometimes they need me to get some defensive items because my offlaner might be a little bit greedier and might not like building these items, so I'll get a Lotus, I'll get an Assault Cross, and I'll get these types of items to buff my team. At the end of the day, you're very flexible and you can do these things without it hindering your gameplay. And then you have late game items like your Aghanim Scepter, which are very, very good. It's going to give you extra healing and also 60% evasion, guys. Do not sleep on the Aghanim Scepter. If your team is relying on you to save them with your ultimate or also give them evasion, very strong. It's going to force the enemy team to get Monkey King Bar. Otherwise, 60% evasion is going to be doing very, very good work. It's going to help your team, especially against a lot of very physical lineups where they're right clicking a lot. It's a very strong ultimate. I'd say it's not that great if your team is getting bursted. It's not that great because the healing pulses in itself are not really that much. It's about 120 per pulse, so it's nothing crazy. It just keeps you in the air for longer, which can be good to disengage in a fight or give your team a little bit more time to get to you. That aspect is pretty good. I have used it in the past where I just stay in the air for longer. My team can make it to me. Let's break down Dawnbreaker's abilities. So your first ability is Starbreaker. So this is doing a lot of damage per swipe, and also it pairs up very, very well with your shard, which gives you debuff immunity, which is very, very good to have on a shard. You could buy it or you can get it from Tormentor. A lot of games you really want to rush it because it's a really good thing to have, and if you don't want to commit to a BKB early on or it's not as important, then you can just pick up that shard and it's going to enable you to do much more with your Starbreaker. Second ability is your Celestial Hammer. So this is pretty much your bread and butter for your catch. It's also your bread and butter for farming. It's going to be your go-to ability. So this is what you guys are going to be maxing all the time. Every single game you're going to be maxing Celestial Hammer, then you're going to be maxing Starbreaker, and then at least you need to have a value point in Luminosity. Your Celestial Hammer, the hammer itself, when it lands, it does 140 damage, lasts 4 seconds with a Trail of Fire, which is really, really good to have. 1300 cast range. Again, all these abilities I am listing at their maximum potential, at their max level. It just makes things a lot easier for you guys to understand what its maximum potential is. Then you have a 36% slow, so enemies caught in this Trail of Fire are going to be taking damage per second. Very, very good. 50 damage per second is very good. Helps you push out lanes without actually being there. You can also farm multiple creep camps at the same time. If you place the hammer and then you walk towards the next camp and you pass that camp, the Trail of Fire, if you do it fast enough, is going to be covering both camps. It's something you can do and it allows you to farm much, much faster. Now let's talk about Luminosity. So Luminosity is your passive ability. You get 50% healing from heroes, 40% from creeps, and you also have a 200% critical strike after 3 attacks. It's something you don't want to max early on, as you don't really have a lot of attack speed. Even throughout the game, Dawnbreaker isn't a hero that has a ton of attack speed. You really rely on your abilities for your damage, but Luminosity can easily get you out of sticky situations. And thanks to the Facet, if you guys chose the Solar Charge Facet, every time you land that Luminosity strike, your cooldowns are going to be reduced by a second, and it can also allow you to get kills that you weren't going to get before because your cooldowns just weren't going to be there. At least one value point is going to be necessary on the Luminosity in the laning phase to help you out and give you that extra little bit of sustain, and also that crit is always going to be really nice. Now let's talk about your ultimate, Solar Guardian. So Solar Guardian is a pretty strong ultimate. It is global, so you're able to join your team wherever it may be, and basically this provides damage per pulse. It also provides a 1.8 second stun when you land and 190 landing damage, and also a little bit of healing. It's not crazy when it comes to the healing. That's why you go for the Aghanim Scepter if you're looking for a lot of healing. It doesn't do a whole lot of healing, but typically what I use it for is to save my team and get on the map, get active, and start rotating to my team without committing my TP scroll. That is something I really like to do on the Dawnbreaker. I think you guys should be doing it as well. Play it sort of like a Spectre. You could keep farming the map. You don't have to be smoking up with your team. You don't have to be going for these plays. You can easily just stay on the other side of the map, wait for your team to engage, and then drop in with your ultimate, unless they have a silencer. If they have a silencer, then they can easily just cancel your ultimate. So it is pretty bad if you are against a silencer, and then you really do have to play with your team and not really rely on on the ultimate unless Silencer has already committed global silence. Other than that, you have to be careful on what you're doing or your ultimate will be canceled. You can also get stunned out of it. Be very careful on how you're using your ultimate, but typically you can play away from your team. That way you can maximize your farm much better. Let's break down some of the best support pairings for the Dawnbreaker. Some of the best supports are Lich, Tusk, Lion, Pudge, Shadow Shaman. Basically any hero that has a stun or a slow to allow you the ability to close the gap with Celestial Hammer or to land a big Starbreaker is going to be a good support pairing for you. Also heroes like Crystal Maiden are going to be really good just because they can root, and they also give that extra mana regen, which is really important for the Dawn as she does struggle early on with mana issues and throughout the game as well, depending on how active you are. These support pairings will help buff up your game. Heroes like Lich will keep you alive much longer in the fights. Heroes like Tusk can help you close the gap even further with a snowball and also trap enemies in the ice shards to help you land a very free Starbreaker and get more kills in the lane. These supports just win the lane for you. Honestly, very, very good. So if you have someone on your team that's willing to pick any of these supports, you're going to have a really good time on the Dawnbreaker. Next, guys, we're going to be covering the matchups. Some of the best matchups for the Dawnbreaker are Phantom Assassin, Legion Commander, Naga Siren, Phantom Lancer. These matchups you are very, very good up against. You can handle these matchups. Heroes like Legion Commander don't want to go up against the Dawnbreaker because your ultimate is going to save your teammate from dying most of the time, and also your Starbreaker just does a lot of damage to Legion, especially when you're going with the Desolator build. It's not a hero she wants to go up against. And heroes like Phantom Assassin, if they do get a ton of farm, they can take care of you, but obviously you can build a Blade Mail, you can build an SNY, and you can build a Monkey King Bar as well, and you can go toe to toe against the Phantom Assassin if you're equal on farm, and if you are ahead of her, you can easily just blow her out of the map. You do way too much damage. And heroes like Phantom Lancer have to avoid your lane at all costs. They cannot lane against you, and it's a very, very bad matchup for the Phantom Lancer in general. Some of the bad matchups are Morphling, Silencer, Viper, Lina. We got Nyx, Zeus, Weaver. So quite a few matchups here that are difficult. It doesn't mean that you cannot win. It doesn't mean because there's a Morphling there that you cannot do anything about it. You can, it's just they're tougher matchups. Morphling can turn into you and do much more than you can, and it's also very hard for your combo to burst them down. You're always going to need +2 or +3 other players to be able to take care of a Morphling. Silencer because you can cancel your ultimate. You got Viper because it's just way too much right click magic damage that you're not able to go up against him. Once you have BKB, you kind of swing the matchup a little bit, but it's not as great. It's typically a very bad idea to go up against the Viper. Lina, same thing. If you are in the mid lane and you happen to go against a Lina, if she's a pretty bad Lina, you can win the lane pretty easily. But if she's a good Lina player and knows what she's doing, you're going to be forced to stack for yourself in the jungle. You're not going to be able to have a really good time in that lane unless she makes a mistake and steps up and you're able to close the gap with Celestial Hammer. Then it's going to be a very easy kill. I've won a lot of these matchups against the Lina, but it's not a matchup you're favored in, so it is a bad matchup. And heroes like Nyx, if they catch you, you will die. It's very hard to live through the Nyx combo, and it's very tough to see her most of the time because she just moves so much around the map. It's very hard to have vision everywhere on the map, and Nyx is just a hero that's extremely annoying. You don't want to go up against these heroes. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments below if Dawnbreaker is your favorite offlaner. I hope you guys enjoyed the guide and learned something, and I will be making more of these very, very soon. I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.